Well, hello Internet, and welcome to part 7 of my Learn to Program series, in which we will learn to program by solving ever-increasingly complex problems. And in this part of the tutorial, we're going to cover dictionaries, and as well, I'm going to show you how to use what are called recursive functions to find Fibonacci numbers, as well as to calculate factorials. All of the code as well as a transcript of this video is available in the description underneath the video, and if you haven't watched any of the previous parts, you definitely should, because like I said, this is a progressive tutorial in which we are covering more and more complex problems. So I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to cover are dictionaries, and they're similar to lists. Now, while lists organize data based off of sequential indexes, dictionaries instead use what are called key-value pairs. And here would be an example of a key, F name, like that, and a value, which would be Derek. Now, of course, we would put quotes around those, and I'm going to show you an example of how we can, basically, I'm going to create a dictionary about myself. So, here is Derek Dictionary, and to create a dictionary, you're going to use curly brackets like this, and then you're going to define the key, put a colon after it, and then a space, and then the value. And then you're going to put a comma, and then you're going to put something else inside of here. Let's say I put last name and colon, and then my last name. And by the way, you can go on to the next line. That doesn't cause any problems. And then we could cover address, and then I could throw in an address inside of here. Alright, so that is how easy it is to create a dictionary. You're also going to be able to easily get values out of a dictionary. We can just go print, and then I could say something like my name, and then follow that up with Derek Dictionary, and then inside of here you're going to put the key that you want to pull information back about, and there you go right there. You're also going to be able to change a value in a key. So let's say I have a situation in which I move. I can just reference my key right here and then put in a new address. And it is very important to understand that whenever you go to print out this information, it may not print out in the order in which you may have thought. So you can see right here, even though I put in first name, last name, and then address, whenever I said that I wanted to print it, it comes out as last name, first name, and then address. So, like I said, dictionaries are non-sequential, so it's very good to understand that so that you don't get results that you're not expecting. We could also come in and add a new key value pair inside of here. So you just go and create a new key, and you could use single quotes here, none of that matters. And let's say that I'm going to decide that I want to list that I live in Pittsburgh. Well, that's how easy that is. I can also come in and check if a key exists. So I could say something like, is there a city? And this is going to provide either a true or false response. And I could just say city in, and then I could type in whatever the dictionary is. And you can see, is there a city? And that comes back as true. We're also going to be able to get a list of our values as well as our keys. First, I'll show you how to get the list of values. You just go Derek Dick, and then you go values like this. And then we'll also go and get our keys, and then just change this to keys. And if we run it, you can see that it prints out both the values as well as our keys that we have inside of there. We're also going to be able to use a for loop to get both the keys and the values. And how you do that is you go for, and I'll just put K in there for key, and then V inside of here for value. And then you just reference whatever your dictionary name is. And then this is an important part, you type in items. And then let's just real simply come in here and print both the keys and the values. And there you can see how they all line up right there. We're also going to be able to get values associated with a key, or if no value is associated with a key, we could throw in a default. So we could do something like, let's just reference our dictionary again, and get is what you're going to do. And then I'm going to say, let's say I'm looking for middle name inside of there. And then if it's not there, I want to print out not here as the default. And you can see right there that not here comes back inside of there. However, if I type in L name and run it, you're going to see that my last name actually comes back. It's also going to be very easy to delete a key value. Just type in DEL for delete, and then whichever one you want to get rid of. So let's say that I no longer want to track first names. That's how simple that is. We're also going to be able to loop through our dictionary keys. So let's just go for I in dictionary, and then let's print those out, and like that, and you can see right here that fname no longer shows up here as a result. And then we will also be able to clear or delete all of the data inside of here by just calling clear. And on top of that, we're also going to be able to create lists that are going to be able to hold dictionaries. So let's say I have an employees list, and let's say that I want to be able to have the user input employee data. This is very important because I'm going to have a problem coming up next that's going to use a lot of what you're seeing here. So let's say we say something like enter employee name, and of course we're going to use the split function so that we can split the input based off of separating between the white space, and then we're going to throw what's on the left side of the white space in fname, and then what's on the right side of the white space into lname. And then we are going to come in here and append the dictionary that's going to be created here for us into our array. So we'll just go like this, and then if you want to reference that variable value that they just entered, just put fname, just don't put it in quotes, and then we can go lname, colon, and then lname, and then finally we can just call for employees to print. And there you go. Enter employee name and type in Derek. Whoops, gave me an error. Do you know why? Because I only entered in one name instead of two, and Derek Manis. And there you can see that it went and created that array and threw the dictionary inside of it. And that brings us to our very first problem for this tutorial series. What I want you to do is to create a customer list. And basically what you're going to do is create an array of customer dictionaries. And the output is going to look like this. So the program is going to start. It's going to say enter customer, and they're going to ask yes or no. They're going to be able to type in a Y or yes or no or N, and there's a little bit of trickery there in figuring out how to make that work. Then if they decide they want to enter a customer name, you're going to allow them to enter it. It's going to ask you to want another one, da 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 da, and the program is going to continue to run until they get to the point where you type in N, and then it's going to print out all of the new customers on the screen. So you know how to do this based off of what I covered in this tutorial and what I've covered in previous parts of the tutorial, so pause the video and give it a try. Otherwise, I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do it right now. Alright, so what are we basically going to have to do here? Well, we're going to first off come in and create an array, and that is going to be used to hold all of our customer dictionaries. Then I'm going to be asking them over and over and over again for them to enter information. So what does that mean? Anytime you say over and over and over again, that basically means I need to create a loop of some sort or another. Then it comes to the point in which we are allowing them to enter in either Y or N or yes or no, and so forth and so on. So we have to figure out exactly how that's going to be allowed. First off, we're going to get input from our user and make it work for Y or N. And we'll figure out how we're going to do that. We're going to have to provide a situation in which we leave the while loop. Something inside of here. Check to leave the loop. Otherwise, we're going to get customer data. And then we are going to add customer data to list. Oop, I typed in array up here again. Gotta stop doing that. List. And then the final thing we need to do is print customer data. So there's a rundown of what we need to do. So first thing we need to do here is to create our list that we're going to use. And I'm just going to call this customers. And you create lists by using the squared off brackets like that. Then I need to create a loop. And I want this to run over and over and over again until they enter some piece of data, which means that a break is going to make more sense to end this loop than anything else. So I'm just going to put while true inside of there. I need to get input from the user. So I'm going to call this entry is equal to input, and I'll say enter customer, yes or no. And remember, they're going to have, I want the ability to allow them to enter in either a Y or an N, or this could be uppercase, or this could be any other different thing. So I'm going to, put in a couple different ways to play around with this. Basically, the most important thing is I'm going to cut off just the first letter. that they are going to be entering in. And to get the first letter, I can just do that. And then I can throw it into lowercase so that it'll always work. And that's all that's needed right there. Then I want to check if I want to leave my loop, and how I can do that quite simply is just by coming in here and saying if create entry is equal to n. Well, that means that it wants me to leave the loop. And how do we leave the loop immediately? We just type in break. Then we get into a situation. Let's come down here and let's tab this in so it makes sense. And then we'll say else, and I want to get my customer data. So I'm going to say fname, and lname is going to be equal to, and then I'll get input, enter customer name. And once again, I'm going to want this to be split so that it has room for all or both of those guys and throws them into the proper variables. And then I want to add the customer to our list as I have right here. And I showed you how to do that. You just go customers, append, and then we're going to throw in our dictionary. So we'll say fname, fname, and then last name and lname. And that's all we're going to need in regards to our looping structure. Then we got to print out all the information. So I'll just say for in customers, and then I will print out that information, and I can get it with just cust. And then we'll do the same thing for our last name inside of here. So just throw in a comma, and we'll just change this to last name. And if we run it, we can see if we got this right here. Enter customer, yes or no. Let's type in Y. That worked. And I can type in my name. To enter another one, yes. And I can say something like Sally Smith. Enter another one, no. And there you can see it went and printed that list of customers. So hopefully you got that problem correct. If you didn't, that's okay. Once again, the idea here is just to learn and see problems and then see how they're solved. And over time, you'll get progressively better at solving problems. So now we're going to take a look at what are called recursive functions. Now, a recursive function is just a function that refers to itself. That is it. It calls itself inside of itself. And that sounds really complicated, but I'm going to show you two examples here, and it's going to make a lot more sense. So basically what we're going to do is, let's say we want to calculate what are called factorials. Well, a factorial, which is, let's say we want the factorial of 3, that's going to come out to 3 times 2 times 1. And that is how we're going to be able to calculate factorials. So basically, what we need to do is figure out how we would use a function that calls itself over and over again to solve this guy. That is our goal. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to create one, and then I'm going to walk you through exactly the process that's going on. So let's say we have a function and it is called factorial, and it is going to receive a number. And basically what we're going to do now is we're going to, every recursive function that you ever create must contain a condition in which it ceases to call itself over and over again. All right? That is true of every recursive function, otherwise you'd get into a infinite loop. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say if this function ever receives a value in which that value is less than or equal to 1, in that situation, we are not going to call the function again. We are simply going to return 1. Otherwise, what we need to do here is calculate our result. And our result is going to be equal to num, the number that was passed in, times factorial, and then num minus 1. So as you can see, each time we go through here, num is going to be decremented by 1. So eventually it's going to get to a situation in which num is less than or equal to 1. And it's going to continue cycling over and over until it gets to that point. And then it will end. And then we will say return result. And that is how easy it is to calculate factorials inside of Python. Now, don't worry about it if that's not making sense. I'm going to run you through an example. So here we're going to say print, and I'll call for factorial to run, and I'll throw 4 inside of there and run it. And you can see right here that the answer comes back as 24. And we can come in here and throw something inside of here. Let's say 4 is equal to, and there we go. So what exactly is going on here? Well, I'll walk you through the process. basically, the first time that the factorial function is called, you're going to have the result, this guy right here, having a value because we passed 4 inside of it. That's going to be 4, and this is going to be times factorial of 3. So exactly what you see there. The next time that we run this guy, so let's go and copy this. It's going to run 3 times here. So this is going to be the second, and this is going to be the third. This guy right here is actually down here. So this is going to be 3, just like we have there. And what's this going to be? 2. So this guy right here is going to be this line right here. So we're going to pass a 2 inside of that, and this is going to be a 1. Now what happens when the function factorial is passed to 1? It returns a value of 1. So this comes out to being equal to 2 times 1. So where does this go? That guy jumps right up here and goes in that place. So what does this mean? Well, this is going to become 3 times, and what's 2 times 1? This guy right here, 2. All right, and where does this go? This goes right here to replace that function, and that's how you get your final result, which is going to be 4 times 6. And that is how you calculate the value of 24. So that is the process, and that is why factorials, or recursive functions anyway, work really well in calculating little problems like this. So now what I'd like you to do is go and try to use this logic to calculate Fibonacci numbers. So Fibonacci numbers are going to be values like this. It's a sequence that goes, well, let's put a comma inside of here. It's going to go 1, and then 1, and then what happens here in this situation is to calculate the next value, we add these two values together. So what's that come to? 2. To figure out what the next number is, we just add these two values together, and it gives us a value of 3. And then we go 5, and then we go 8, and so forth and so on. So what I want you to do is to create using a recursive function. I want you to continue this process over and over again. And the main information that you need to understand is to calculate this. What we're going to do is we're going to follow this process. So this is going to be equal to n minus 1. So the value passed in is going to be n, and then we're going to take n minus 1, and then we're going to add it to n minus 2. Then we're going to have a couple conditions. These are going to be the conditions that are going to throw us out of our recursive functions, and where if the value passed in is 0 in that situation, we will return a 0. And in a situation in which the number passed in is a 1, we will return a 1. Now I think you could pause the video and solve it right now, but if you want a little bit more of a hint, I will give you more of a hint. Let's say that the user comes in and they type in something like fib3. What exactly is going to be happening here? Well, the first run through is going to have a result which is going to be equal to fib2 plus fib1. The next process, or the next step through, is going to have result equal to, and then what we're going to do is we're going to actually break this into two values, which is going to be this guy and this guy. So we will change this into fib1 plus fib, and this would be 0. So basically, this one call of this function is going to create these two guys right here. And then this guy right here is going to give us a value of fib 0. And the condition that I set up here is that if the value passed in is 0, this is going to become a 0. And this guy, what's this going to become? Also 0. And what's this guy going to become? A 1. So what are we getting here in essence? We're getting 1 plus 0. So knowing this piece of information, what are we going to be able to do? Well, this is our final result. And what is 1 plus 0 equal to? Well, it's equal to 1. And where does this 1 go? That 1 goes right here into this little box. And then we have the 2 up here. So what do we have for an example? The final example is going to be 2 plus 1, which is going to give us our value of 3. So now I think you have more than enough information to give this guy a shot, and now I'm going to walk you exactly through how we're going to solve it. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to say define, and I'm going to say fib, and it's going to receive a number. And like I said before, if n is going to be equal to 0, in that situation, we will return a value of 0. Else if n has a value of 1, in that circumstance, we will return a 1. Otherwise, in all other situations, we will calculate the result, and the result is going to be equal to fib n minus 1, exactly as we said previously. And I'll throw this inside of there just so we can see that a little bit better. So there is what we're actually working on. And then we're basically just transposing that function and that definition into code. And then we'll say return result, and we can run it to see if it worked. So we'll say print fib 3, and why don't we go and do some more, copy, and 4, and 5, and here you can see the results of those calculations. So if we come down here and look at 3, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, and 2 is the result. Here if we put in 4, again 3 is the result, and here if we go 5 spaces, 5 is going to be the result. So there you go. Hopefully you guys got that right. But if not, and you have any questions, just leave any of your questions you have in the comment section, and I'll be sure to answer them. And in the next part of the tutorial, we're going to jump in and learn about files. So please leave your questions and comments below. Otherwise, till next time.